Visions of the North Shore of Staten Island. Two visions of what might be, what the city planners and developers think it should be, and what it can be. Remember, all the future buildings that you will see are built according to the present zoning or to zoning proposed by the New York City Department of City Planning. This is the North Shore of Staten Island. It's really two shores. One shore faces north, the industrial waterfront along the Killivan Cull, and the other shore faces New York Harbor from the Verrazano Bridge to the towers of Manhattan. This is the last open waterfront with views of the entire harbor. How will the harbor shore be developed? With a wall of private gated apartment buildings along the shoreline, or with the MERC. The MERC is the Maritime Education and Recreation Corridor. It's a corridor along the waterfront that hosts educational and recreational facilities open to all, and that emphasizes Staten Island's matchless views and its maritime character. Before we start, some maps of land use, zoning, and floods. The Bay Street Corridor rezoning. These are the areas to be changed by the proposed Bay Street Corridor rezoning and related actions. It's not all along Bay Street. There's a section of Bay Street to be rezoned from industrial commercial to residential commercial. And there are two city-owned parcels on the waterfront to be upzoned and sold for high-rise residential housing. City-owned vacant land. This is land owned by the City Parks Department along the waterfront, now unused by the city. In 2006, this land was rezoned as the Special Stapleton Waterfront District, almost all for private 5-story residential buildings. A piece of this land has already been sold off to build Irby, an apartment building visible in the middle. Now the city proposes to upzone 2 more plots for 12-story buildings and sell them for 2 more developments. The flood. On October 29, 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit New York City with a surge 13 foot above the high tide line. This is what was flooded. Notice Stapleton Park, Irby, and all the shore underwater. The city's response to this is to order that the new buildings in the flood areas can only have parking and commercial on the first 2 floors, no residential. The Wall. The Wall is a line of private buildings along the shore. This is the city's plan for the shore. And here are the buildings built or zoned to be built along the harbor waterfront. Tompkinsville. The city wants to rezone 2 lots in Tompkinsville. First, for a 16-story building on the Minthorn site, where the brewery and the city services are now. This building is Minthorn Prospect, built according to the proposed zoning. Second, a 13-story building on the gas station site on Hannah Street. This building is Hannah Tower, built according to the proposed zoning. They both overshadow the Lions open-air pool. Moving south over Lions Pool, this is Site A. This lot, Site A, south of Lions Pool, the city wants to upzone for 12-story buildings and sell to a private developer. This building, the harbor side, is a gated 12-story estate with 319 apartments built according to the proposed zoning for Site A. The second lot right south of it is Site B1. This lot, the city also wants to upzone for 12-story buildings and sell to a private developer. This building, the Waterview, is a gated 12-story estate with 308 apartments built according to the proposed zoning for Site B. Then we come to Irby. Half of Irby has already been built. It's a 5-story gated estate with 571 apartments, with its own private swimming pool, farm, and other facilities, built on land sold by the city. 3 more bays of Irby are scheduled to be built as of right, with 330 more apartments. Then we come to the Stapleton Waterfront South. This building, the Pilot House, is a gated 5-story commercial residential estate with 943 apartments built according to the current zoning of the Stapleton Waterfront South. Then we leap over the Clifton Railroad Station and yards and come to Edgewater. Edgewater Plaza, formerly the Pouch Terminal, is a more than 100-year-old warehouse building that has been repurposed for offices. Here is the developer's actual design for a 3-building, 13-story complex, Edgewater Esplanade, that has already received 3 zoning variances from the city for extra height and for waterfront residences. This is the actual design that the developer filed. Behind the wall. Let's make a walk back along Front Street, formerly the waterfront, soon to be behind the wall. This is what you will see if all these buildings are built. Starting behind the Clifton train yards, here is the Stapleton Waterfront South. We walk along a residential commercial building, even larger, 978 feet of frontage, than the full Irby, 954 feet of frontage. At the north end, there is a strip mall, and then a former Navy building repurposed as a private gym and basketball club. Between this and Irby, there is a park, 2.3 acres, called The Cove. This is the only shore park allowed by the city, except for a path and cycleway along the foreshore. Now Irby, the new section to be built starting soon. And here's the driveway of Irby already built. And at the north edge of Irby, a plaza opening to the Homeport Pier and the Marine Company 9 Farhouse. Then the gated estate of the Waterview. Then a 4th gated estate, the Harbor Side. It has a gym, a paddock, high-rise apartments, and a strip mall. And now, see where we are. That's the Tompkinsville train station. Lyons Pool is hidden behind. So this is the wall of waterfront buildings that the city would allow and that the developers want. For 2,500 apartments, half with, half without harbor views, they're going to throw away the last open waterfront in the harbor. In its city planning wisdom, the city would encourage developers to build a wall of gated communities along the last open waterfront in the city, walling it off from everyone else except for a narrow pathway in front. It does not have to be this way. There is a better way, the MERC. The MERC is the Maritime Education and Recreation Corridor. It is a corridor along the waterfront with education, recreation, sports, research, and outlook facilities, open to all, that celebrates Staten Island's maritime character. Let's walk along the MERC pathway that links the resources of the North Shore, starting at the ferry terminal. The National Lighthouse Museum and Pier 1, housed on the site of the U.S. Lighthouse Service General Depot on Staten Island, it celebrates American lighthouse heritage through education programs, publications, films, festivals, living history, trails, conferences. And beside it is Pier 1, hosting sailboat and historic vessels cruises, fishing charters, sightseeing tours, plus a community fishing area. Then past Bay Street Landing, repurposed warehouses, we come to Tompkinsville Park, laid out nearly 100 years ago. The Tompkinsville Park Discovery Center is a hub for horticultural and green science education and a working park house for materials, information, and community resources. It's presently padlocked. The Learning Dock, back across the railroad down the old landing stage of Tompkinsville to the Learning Dock, in the footprint of the old Cromwell Center, which was on a pier destroyed by the hurricane. There's a training vessel, there's boat building, there's an eco and sustainability training dock. And then at Lyons Pool, Cromwell at the MERC, the new Cromwell Recreation Center built adjacent to Lyons Pool to replace at least some of the indoor space lost when Cromwell was destroyed by the storm. Basketball, swimming, community rooms. Then heading south to Lot A and Lot B, we have the North Fields. Sports fields lost when the old Cromwell Center sank. Changing and equipment pavilions. Football. The running track. Soccer. We have only baseball on the waterfront so far. We could have football, we could have soccer, we could have running, and all in the open air by the water. Then we skip over Irby and we come to the South Stapleton waterfront. The Vanderbilts had a farmhouse and a farm near where the Paramount Theater is today on Bay Street. So why not Vanderbilt Farms on the waterfront? Updated for the 21st century. Hydroponics, aquaculture, market gardens. Now we leap over to Fort Wadsworth to the Maritime Education Complex. At Fort Wadsworth, we have the future home of the New York Harbor Middle School. Maritime technology, practical maritime education, on-the-water training. So that is the MERC, and that is two visions of the North Shore, the Wall or the MERC. And the time to choose is now.